Ick if he's right for me or I'm right for him. I'm a 23F, was dating a 28M for 1.5 years that I thought was going to end up in marriage, but we broke up in January 2024, and it hit me pretty hard as it was my first healthy relationship, and I was head over heels for him. And my life has been a roller coaster since then. There was this new joinee 28M, let's call him in my office that really liked me, but since he knew I was in a relationship, so he refrained. But after my breakup, we started talking more, and he became kind of obsessed with me while I was just looking for a distraction. We hooked up, and it was casual from my end, but he expected more. I proposed to friends with benefit arrangement since I was just out of a very loving relationship and needed time to think straight and decide my course of action for future, to which he took great offense as he either wanted a relationship or nothing at all with me, and he suggested he would change his office since it would be difficult for him since it was the first time he had feelings for someone in almost 6 to 7 years. But I was reluctant since I didn't want to just get in a relationship for the sake of it and didn't want to use him as a move-on guy from my last relationship. He later understood and gave me time to make my decision after a very close office friend of mine, let's call him Z, a 34M with a year-old daughter, explained him my side of the story and asked him to wait and have patience. It was very ambitious and intelligent too. He had kickstarted some cool businesses and made great profit as well. Took great care of his mom who had fought blood cancer, his father who was now retired but facing early stages of Alzheimer's, married his younger sister with a good match, and basically taking up all the responsibilities of his home, being the eldest son without the generational wealth. Me, on the other hand, was the self-made eldest daughter of an Orthodox family, and we bonded on childhood trauma, since his and mine extended family background is very similar culture and thinking-wise, our financial upbringing, and I have always wanted to kickstart a business as well. We started talking more and hanging out. On my birthday in our first week, he went out of his way to plan a party for me, invited my friends, made all the arrangements, and spent a hefty amount. After that, I got to know he had been involved with a girl. Let's call her E from his last office. Turns out I liked E, but she was engaged at the time in an arranged marriage setup. So they refrained, but after some time they started hooking up since he wanted it to last till her marriage, only to which A also agreed. But right before her marriage, E fell in love with A and proposed for marriage, to which A declined. They stopped hooking up after she was married, but were still friends. After 5 to 6 months, she started sharing the problems in her marriage and in-laws and about her husband being lazy and unemployed and later of marital ape as well. So I trained her professionally and provided her with some freelancing projects in his known connections. He wanted to move out of her in-laws' house, but his husband didn't make any money. So A proposed E and her husband to come live with him in his house, so they both can build their marriage away from the problems of in-laws. I got a job for E's husband as well, but he always used to find excuses to not go in active illness at all times and had to be taken to hospital at A's expenses a lot of times, but all the reports were normal always. E could never accept her husband and started hooking up with A again. But after 6 months in December 2023, he asked them both to move out from his home, since E and her husband used to fight a lot and created unnecessary problems, but he still couldn't move on and wanted to divorce her husband for A, to which he declined since it was never a commitment from his end. But since he was involved with his work, so they still used to hook up occasionally, but couldn't completely stop it because of E's side-owl thoughts, as she was very emotionally and financially dependent on him. And I got to know about this after my birthday. He had been physically with her once while we were in talking stage in February, but he couldn't get his DCK up during the act because of guilt as he was talking to me as well and stopped in between. It made me go crazy, and I shouted at him and said whatever I could as I felt I had been cheated on since we were talking. I stopped talking to him, but later my office friend Z vouched that it was acceptable since I didn't give him any commitment as well, and we were just flirting. He explained later that it wasn't substantial between them and cut her off physically, but not from work since her livelihood depended on it. After fighting for several days, I somehow agreed to continue, but developed trust issues on him. Later I asked A to ask E to find a job somewhere else, but even after several communications, she did not. So finally I talked to her directly and asked her to find a job and cut ties with him and communication being strictly on mail/text only till then. I has been feeling guilty ever since as it was him who led her on. He accepts it and regrets not taking accountability of his go-with-the-flow attitude. I occasionally bring it up and fight with him since it was morally very wrong to be involved with a married woman in first place, but somehow I decided to give him a second chance and made peace with it. But my friends could never, and now all they think about him is that he is a manipulative liar. In March end, he introduced me to his family, saying he wants to marry me. I was not very sure of how to react, as I thought he was rushing too fast, but the deed was done, and there was no going back. Then I asked him on April 1st for a relationship, to which he agreed. He was very happy and has been going out of his way to show his love for me for almost 5 months in relationship now. But the relationship has been very unsettling and chaotic. You see, because we made it official in our office, we became target to the politics, and things became very stressful at work, and we used to fight frequently since he was at a higher position than me, so I was the target of the management since he was a new hire plus a valuable resource to them. I started having frequent panic attacks at work also. I have anger issues and used to shout on him a lot, and once I even grabbed him by neck and hit his head and back to the wall in anger, to which I instantly felt terrible and apologized, but he was very upset and almost cried due to disrespect and became silent. There have been several episodes of my anger bursts and treating him badly, not hitting. Somehow, I have subconsciously accepted that he is never going to leave me no matter what I do, and I feel terrible for it, and thinking to consider therapy, since IT, is unacceptable. Since I had just been out of a relationship, there were several instances where I used to miss my old boyfriend since he was a known comfort, and clearly, to be honest, I didn't deal with my breakup. It was the most peaceful relationship I had. Somehow he used to bring the best in me, and I was very expressive, bubbly, playful, funny, but now I was just a ball of stress and anger, and taking it all out on it instead of healing from it. I became silent after my breakup and hardly shared what went in my head. I was just existing and started forgetting even the basic stuff and forget about focusing on work with all this going on. Had a father with abusive drinking as well, going through financial crisis. It took out the worst in me, considered therapy, but it was out of budget. Then, we both decided to leave our jobs in June. Later turns out it was the office friend Z that did all that because Z liked me, and he had confessed his feeling to me in February only, but since he was married and had a kid as well, it felt way out of the moral boundary, but he kept getting jealous of me getting closer to A, but portrayed as he was a well-wisher of mine. Things added up in the end, to which he confessed as well. Then it introduced me to a guy, let's call him P, 53M, who had been working for the past 2.5 years on freelancing basis, and P wanted to hire me full-time. But he wanted A to be working for less than half his paycheck plus some stake in the company for initial months, and after some projects landed, he would start giving him full his paycheck. We thought it was a good deal since he was known, and he would have plenty of time there to build our own business since P visited office occasionally. There was this woman in her mid-30s, let's call her X, who was joining P as the co-founder, but their arrangement was yet to be made official on papers. She was supposed to take care of the business side, and I was hired to assist her, but she barely did anything and put all her work on me, kept nudging me for everything. But soon after we joined, work was too much, and I was busy most of the time traveling for it since it was at a pre-startup stage, and we had to work our asses off, but we used to find time during office hours. X noticed that all of the work that X could do was being done by me, and I was a cheaper resource to P, which made her insecure, so she started painting me as someone with anger and behavioral issues since I used to answer her back on her illogical reasonings. Once we were in office and no one else was there, and we were kissing, which someone saw and told P about. X took great benefit of it and started pitting P against me and A that we weren't working, and A takes my side at work. P and X overloaded me with work with constant nudging, to which I eventually quit. X wanted to make sure that I did not return to the company after some time, so she started troubling me on my notice period with excessive reworks on the pitches, database, and other things, issues regarding my office timings, and a lot of other things. Once she was continuously shouting on me for no reason, which even P and A could clearly see. So I lost control of my anger and abused her in front of everyone and showed her place and resigned immediately. After that, I had a panic attack in front of everyone and started crying uncontrollably, but it consoled me since he knew everything I was going through and supported me in front of everyone. We decided I would stay at home for some time and work on building our own startup, but after some time, due to financial crunches and continuous fightings at home, I decided to get back to work. I has also been financially struggling since he had been working for less than half of his paycheck because he didn't want to leave P in between, but since I have left that organization, all the work has fallen onto A, and anyone else hardly does anything, and now he is also looking for another job after me pushing him so much. Most of these have been external factors to our relationship, and definitely a lot to be happening in just 6 months of knowing him. Talking about our relationship, he supports me, cares for me, loves me very much. But somehow he feels unloved by my actions. He feels I don't make him feel confident about himself, and feels neglected, while on the other hand, I try my best to make him feel loved and be there for him. But somehow he doesn't share his feelings much. Our relationship is mostly about me. He gets jealous when I talk about my ex, but I tell him that I did not even grieve about my ex and got involved with him. He has trouble sleeping at night, and he keeps his room light on for all night even while sleeping. He says he sleeps like a baby only while I'm around / with him. He sleeps with light off at night only when I stay at his place. Since I live with my parents, I stay at his place at night occasionally only. I got different scented candles for him to help him feel better with aromatherapy, but turns out he doesn't like candles. He keeps the candle beside his pillow without burning. Also has very different coping mechanism. Initially, I was also very skeptical of it. He doesn't share much about his feelings, except for when he is having sleep with me. He has literally cried during act a lot times expressing his love for me and how he doesn't want to lose me. Anything I say or do that hurts him comes out only during the act when he is vulnerable. He also acts like a baby sometimes and just wants to be cared for. He has a very get-up relationship with SX. Every time he is upset, sad, angry, and experiences any discomforting emotion, he just wants SX. He has a kink for humiliation, and he asks me to keep humiliating him during the act, but I don't feel comfortable doing that because why would you hurt someone you claim to love, and it gets very difficult for him to function without ejaculating. He used to take therapy before for this, and his therapist asked him to find a better coping mechanism, but nothing's works for him. Me, on the other hand, have decreased libido due to stress and anxiety, and I think of SX as a way of celebrating life and happiness, but mine doesn't revolve around it, his does. But I have been feeling very confused about what to do. I don't like SX chats since they don't feel real to me, but he is a lot into that stuff. He was very sad and stressed recently, and he was begging me for a SX chat, but after denying for some time, I agreed, and I could see the difference in his mood and his will to live in general and significant other changes. Now, since he is already 28, his family is pressuring him to marry, and he is asking me to introduce him at my home, which I don't want to do right now as I'm not prepared for marriage and have to settle my family and sort out the basic survival first, and then marry, but he is rushing things and asking if I'm sure about him or not. He can wait, but only if I'm sure about him, but point is I don't know. My family is way too orthodox and proud. Now is not the time since I want to settle first and have a ground to ask for what I want. I have to earn my freedom, and it will take time. 2 days back, I told him I wasn't sure about marriage, yet to which he became very angry and upset, and said why did I give hope to his family, to which I said he never asked for my consent before introducing to his family. I mean, we were not even in relationship at that time when he said to his mom that he wanted to marry me, but I have been in touch with his family since then, and he reminds me 4 times a day to ask in my family for marriage, and it is annoying now since I have clearly communicated, and all I'm asking is more time to know each other better and see if this is viable for a lifetime. Recently, we had a discussion about rape cases, and he supported not all men and went on mansplaining things and somehow just wanted me to agree with him and said feminism is not about equality. It is just about empowerment of women. He researched about things on internet and found himself borderline misogynist. I feel very confused on what to do. We love each other, but 6 months seems too short of a time to decide for marriage. Plus, we fight a lot, We don't resolve conflicts in a healthy way. It's breakup patch-up going on every 2 weeks, plus I have trust issues on him, my abusive behavior and anger issues. He says love and willingness to make a relationship work is what matters, but I think there are a lot of other aspects at play also. Having some common ground is necessary to bond, but we have bonded on our childhood trauma and work mindset. And that's why I'm turning to strangers on internet for advice.